Welcome to the Prison Professors Podcast. We serve people who face challenges with prosecution, sentencing, and prison. My co-founders are Sean Hopwood and Justin Paperny. My name is Michael Santos. We create digital content and our team offers individual consulting services. We also assist agencies that want to improve outcomes. To learn how we can help you, text the word PrisonPro to 44222. Again, text PrisonPro to 44222 and get our free brochure. You can also visit us at prisonprofessors.com or contact Justin at 818-424-2220. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Send confirmation that you have rated our Prison Professors podcast and leave us a review, and we'll send you a free digital book. We'll work hard to earn 5 stars. Stay tuned for a 20 to 30-minute episode with Prison Professors. Are you facing a term in federal prison? I'm Michael Santos, and along with my two co-founders, Sean Hopwood and Justin Paperny, we want to help you master the system. The more you know about the system, the better you can position yourself to succeed. We're now in our 3rd episode of our 5-part series, How to Master Prison. In our 2 previous episodes, we offered some insight. We discussed the process that brings someone into the system. Then we discussed how people going into the system should work to influence leaders. In this episode, we cover custody and classification. Those who have never been to federal prison may not know anything about custody and classification systems, but understanding the system can make all the difference in the world. It is something that each of our partners knows a lot about. For those who are reading the chapters independently rather than sequentially, I encourage you to tune in to earlier episodes so that you can learn about the members of our Prison Professors team. All readers should know why we are qualified to teach lessons on mastering the federal prison system. Our website at prisonprofessors.com features a full bio on each of us. As stated in the previous episodes, to master the federal prison system, start with an understanding of the massive bureaucracy. The system employs more than 40,000 staff members, and it confines about 200,000 people. In an effort to keep decisions in harmony, the Bureau of Prisons relies upon an extensive library of program statements and policy statements. The Bureau of Prisons invests heavily to train its staff members so that they can make decisions in accordance with those program statements and policy statements. The Bureau of Prisons operates a website at www.bop.gov. That's at www.bop.gov. Through that website, visitors can access the program statements and the policy statements. The BOP published Program Statement 5100.08 on September the 12th, 2006. This program statement covers inmate designation and custody classification. I gotta say, I hate that word inmate. I heard it for 9,500 days. I always like to use the term prisoner, but in the vernacular of the Bureau of Prisons, it is the Inmate Designation and Custody Classification Program Statement. It is the 8th version of the program statement, and in time, the Bureau of Prisons will likely revise the program statement. When the BOP revises the program statement, it will be known as 5100.09. For now, we will provide a primer on the system that is in use as of December 2017. So, the Inmate Security Designation and Custody Classification System. Our team at Prison Professors has thousands of stories that reveal why an understanding of inmate security designation and custody classification is so crucial. I'm going to start by describing the case of Eric. Now, a federal judge sentenced Eric to serve a 48-month sentence for wire fraud. Prior to being charged, Eric said that he didn't know the meaning of wire fraud. I mean, he was new to the criminal justice system. He didn't even consider himself a criminal. Now, many people make bad decisions during the course of their careers, and sometimes those bad decisions lead to a criminal prosecution. Eric owned a small finance company, and some financial structuring problems led prosecutors to indict him. Now, inappropriate use of email and the internet led to his guilty conviction. But regardless of his self-perception of not being a criminal, a federal judge ordered Eric to surrender to a federal prison camp so that he could serve a 48-month sentence. That's typical. But had Eric understood the inmate security designation and custody classification system, he likely would have had an easier journey. At least that's what he says. He said that if he understood it, he would have adjusted it differently. You see, by not understanding the system, Eric made some decisions inside that really complicated his journey. Now, as anyone can see from the free calculators that we make available on our website, Eric should have finished his time in prison early. With credit for good time, credit for completion of the residential drug abuse program, and credit for a halfway house, Eric should have served about 2 years in prison. Then he should have transferred to a halfway house to finish the last few months of his sentence. But Eric didn't understand the prison system. He made decisions inside that resulted in his serving the entire 48-month sentence. Further, authorities prosecuted Eric a second time for possession of contraband in prison. Although he could have returned to his family in less than 2 years, Eric ended up serving the entire 4-year sentence. He also received a new felony conviction and an additional 6-month term. Instead of serving his time in a minimum security camp, Eric served substantial portions of his sentence locked inside the segregated housing unit and then in a low security prison. Now, the question you may ask, how did that happen? What kind of fool was Eric? Well, the reality is Eric's just a human being. He's a human being that didn't really consider himself a criminal. And when he went into the prison system, he didn't really know what he was getting into. And he certainly didn't know how the decisions that he would be making every day could have a direct influence on his custody and classification. Eric's struggle came because he just didn't understand the prison system. And because he didn't understand the prison system, he didn't see himself as a criminal. He made the dreadful mistake of thinking that others wouldn't see him as a criminal as well. See, Eric's self-perception didn't have any bearing at all on how prison staff would treat him. Staff members would consider him an inmate, and as such, they would judge him in accordance with what the various program statements prescribed. Remember, he's living in a bureaucracy, and in a bureaucracy, the staff members are trained to abide by policy and program statements. So the following sequence of events occurred that really complicated his life. Eric surrendered to prison in accordance with the judge's order, and as soon as he settled in, he wanted to use the phone. He didn't know the rules associated with the phone system. To use the phone, Eric had to wait for staff members to set up a list of approved numbers that he could call from his account. Now, there's some technological improvements that have since improved that process, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be some type of rule in prison that a newcomer isn't going to understand. And Eric grew frustrated with what he didn't understand. He wanted to talk with his parents, but the phone system didn't allow him to call the number that he needed to call. And so, not knowing the rules, Eric asked his wife to patch him through on a conference call with his parents. Well, that didn't last long. Staff members learned about the three-way call. Why? Because they listen to every call and they've got triggers in their system to catch that kind of thing. So after finding Eric guilty of violating the phone rules, a disciplinary hearing officer sanctioned Eric with the loss of telephone privileges for 6 months. Now, Eric tried to reason with the disciplinary hearing officer, but the disciplinary hearing officer gave him the static response, telling him he should have thought about all this before he committed wire fraud. Well, Eric didn't respond well to the loss of telephone privileges. Instead, he used a cell phone that he borrowed from another prisoner. Cell phones are contraband, and staff members caught him. Possession of a cell phone brought a series of new problems. But because it wasn't only contraband, it was also a new criminal conduct. So as a result of Eric's decisions, he lost good time, he lost eligibility for the residential drug abuse program and the time off that would have resulted had he completed the program successfully. Then, prosecutors charged him with new criminal conduct. He underwent more expenses with legal fees. He pleaded guilty to a second felony, and he received a new 6-month sentence that ran consecutive to his first sentence. He served more than a year in the special housing unit, otherwise known as the Hole. And then he served the remainder of his time in a low-security prison where he faced other problems. That's where I met him. Now, Eric liked to say that he wasn't a criminal. Yet those who worked in the system did not concern themselves with Eric's self-perception. They judged him in accordance with objective information, and the policy statements. What's that objective information? Let's just count it out. Number 1, he pleaded guilty to the white-collar crime of wire fraud. That means he's a criminal. Number 2, a judge sentenced him to serve a 48-month sentence. Again, further evidence he's a criminal. Number 3, BOP staff members relied upon Program Statement 5100.08 for his inmate security designation and classification. Number 4, the objective scoring showed that he should serve his time inside of a minimum security federal prison camp. 5, yet his adjustment in prison resulted in a new scoring with the Program Statement 5100.08. He received a public safety factor, and that resulted in his serving the remainder of his time in a higher security environment. Now, what's the difference between minimum security and higher security? Well, I can tell you can make it anywhere. It's all in your mind. It's all what you're going through. It's all how you prepare yourself. But if you want the best possible outcome, generally, you want to serve it in the easiest environment, the environment with the highest level of liberty. Well, Eric's decisions put him on a path that made things a little bit more difficult for him. So how do you avoid that? You understand security in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Understand how the policies came to be, why they exist, and how staff members are going to interpret them. Now, at the time of this writing, the end of 2017, the Federal Bureau of Prisons confines about 185,000 people. Now, about 83% of those people, or just under 155,000 inmates, they serve their time inside the Bureau of Prisons facilities. The other people serve their time in privately managed prisons or other types of facilities. Males make up more than 93% of the federal prison population, and those people serve sentences in the following types of security levels. 1, minimum security federal prison camps. That includes about 32,000 people, or 17% of the population, serve their time in camps. Low security federal correctional institutions. 69,000 people, or about 37% of the population, serve their time in low security FCIs. Medium security FCIs. 55,000 people, or about 30% of the population, live in medium security FCIs. High security United States penitentiaries. Those confine about 21,500 people, or 12% of the population. During the 26 years that I was locked up, I had the good fortune of serving time in United States penitentiaries, medium security FCIs, low security FCIs, and minimum security camps. And I've got news for you. It doesn't really matter where you are. As long as you've got a deliberate plan of action, you live a values-based, goal-oriented life like we teach in our program, you can make it anywhere. I made it in every environment. And the people I met, if they lived a values-based, goal-oriented life, they could make progress anywhere. So don't be distraught over where you're serving your time. Instead, learn strategies that'll help you succeed regardless of what external influences are governing your life. Now, my partner and co-founder of Prison Professors, Justin Paperny, he served time for a white-collar crime. He served his entire sentence in the Taft Federal Prison Camp. It's a minimum security camp, pretty sweet spot. Now, Sean Hopwood, he served his time for armed bank robbery, and he served his entire sentence inside the medium security FCI in Pekin, Illinois. So we all have experience in going through this, but I can tell you that our experiences in every institution of my two partners and me were successful because we understood the system. So I encourage you, develop a level of literacy with Program Statement 5100, also known as the Inmate Security Designation and Custody Classification System. Now, the Custody Classification Manual helps people who want to master the federal prison system. You can find it by accessing that BOP website that I mentioned earlier. That's bop.gov. Now, no one can change the past, but at any time, we can start sowing seeds for a better future. Now, in our book, Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Prison Term, we show how I started sowing seeds very early during my journey. And the seeds that I sowed allowed me to make significant progress in prison. In fact, I took the opposite approach of Eric. He started in a camp,
But once he surrendered, he started making some bad decisions that led him to higher security level prisons. I say they are bad decisions because he told me they were bad decisions. Once he got to the place where I met him, he says how much he missed the camp. So it was just the opposite for me. I started in a high security United States penitentiary. But as soon as I got there, I started studying the custody and classification system. I read the Code of Federal Regulations. I learned everything I possibly could about the prison system so that I could have the best possible experience. I started making decisions very early on that would put me on a path to ease my adjustment. So you have to really understand inmate security designation and the custody classification system. Then you can start laying the foundation for success. Now that foundation would allow me to transfer from a USP, high security penitentiary, to a medium security FCI. Then I transferred to a low security FCI. Then at the soonest possible time, in accordance with Program Statement 5100, I transferred to a minimum security federal prison camp. And I can tell you, it made all the difference in the world. So it doesn't mean you can't succeed in higher security, but I can tell you it's a little bit easier as you go lower. Primarily because you're around other people who want to succeed. And life is about networking and connecting yourself with the right people. I found myself, since I knew that I wanted to be in business, I wanted to become successful, it was more chance to find other people who had that same mindset when I was in a minimum security camp. So if you're going to understand Program Statement 5100.08, you should look to the BOP.gov website and read everything you can on the objective system. Now, on our website, we offer a free calculator that will help people determine how staff members in the BOP will score them. Simply visit ProfessorProfessors.com, click on the calculators button in the main menu, and respond to the questions. If my partners have decided to charge for that service at some point, that's fine. Just drop them an email. Tell them you're going to leave a review or something on our website or on iTunes for the podcast, whatever. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help you with the calculator if you can't afford it. So the calculators simulate Program Statement 5100.08. They look for responses to questions on two separate levels. If you're going to study this, you need to know what are those two different levels. Well, I'll tell you, one of the levels that the custody and classification system is going to score you on is called the base scoring system. The second level is called the custody scoring system. Now, to arrive at the scoring level, you've got to respond to 10 separate questions. And the response that you give to each question will provide an objective score. Now, those questions include the following types of questions. Number one, what type of detainer do you have, if any? Well, to answer that question, you got to know a little bit about your criminal history. Have they charged you with a crime someplace else in some other jurisdiction? And if they do, is it minor, major? What kind? Is it a serious detainer? Well, all of that information is in the classification system. Number two, what is the severity of your current offense? Again, that's an objective fact, because in the policy statement, they define what is severe, they categorize every offense, and they provide what level of severity it is. And there's a point system associated with it. Number three, how many months do you expect to serve before your scheduled release? Now, that factor doesn't get taken into the score, but if you have longer than 120 months to serve before your scheduled release, you will receive a public safety factor, and that'll stop you from going to a minimum security camp. Number four, what will the BOP say about your criminal history? I'm not so concerned with what you say. It's more important, what is the BOP going to say? Because that's what's going to influence the custody and classification schedule. Number five, do you have a history of escape attempts? Number six, do you have a history of violence? Number seven, will staff in the BOP recognize that you voluntarily surrendered to prison? Important to understand, we're only concerned with the BOP's perception here. Number eight, what will the BOP say about your age? Number nine, what will the BOP say about your education level? And number 10, what will the BOP say with regard to your history of alcohol or substance abuse during the past 5 years? So those 10 questions and your responses to those 10 questions are going to influence your base scoring. And again, notice that we're always asking, what will the BOP say? It's not important what you or anyone else says. We need to assess what the BOP will say in order to calculate your score appropriately. So program statement 5100.08 will attach a score to each of your responses to those questions. And this score is your base score. When it comes to the base score, you'll note that the questions focus on your past. For the most part, you'll notice that they require static answers, meaning that you'll never have an opportunity to change the outcome. If the BOP says you have a history of escape attempts, that's never going to change. You've got a history. Some time will pass that will cause them to classify it differently, but nevertheless, you've got the history and you can't change that. It's a static answer. Since you cannot change the past, you must wait for calendar pages to turn to influence the base score. But it's important to understand that this score as early as possible. The sooner you understand this score, the sooner you can start working to influence the score during your pre-sentence investigation process. If you can get it before then, you might be able to make some arguments that will have an influence on that base score. So once you calculate the base score, the next step will require you to answer questions that will lead to your custody score. And these are the questions that influence a custody score. Number 1, what will the BOP say with regard to how much time you've served as a percentage of your sentence? Again, that's an objective answer. Number 2, with regard to program participation, will the BOP assess you as average or good? So that's more subjective. Okay, you can argue that you have good participation. Number 3, how will the BOP assess your living skills? Again, subjective. Number 4, what will the BOP say with regard to your record of disciplinary infractions? Number 5, what will the BOP say about the frequency of disciplinary reports that you've received in the past year? You can influence that. Don't get any disciplinary problems. Number 6, what will the BOP say about your community ties? And finally, 7, what will the BOP say about your gender? Okay, they have a different scoring system for males and females. So program statement 5100.08 will assign a score to each answer that you provide. And the sum of those scores will result in your custody score. Then program statement 5100.08 will require you to consult a variance table that may either add or subtract from your score. So when you take all these factors into consideration, you receive a scoring. And the scoring reflects all of your security points. Those security points will determine the type of prison where you will serve your sentence. Your behavior in prison will determine whether you move to higher security levels and potentially extend your release date, as was the case with Eric, or if you pursue a path of a master, your behavior in prison will result in your moving to a lower security prison and potentially advancing your release date. These scores will come from your pre-sentence investigation report. If you want to influence these scores, then learn as much as possible before the PSI. We urge you to review the information available on our website. It's free, and it will help you understand the importance of the PSR. It will also offer some guidance on how to influence that PSR. If you need guidance, read the articles first. They're free. If you need consulting, make sure you just reach out to our team. Justin will be happy to respond to your questions. You can get him very easily just by visiting our website. So higher security prisons as compared to lower security prisons, what's the real difference? Well, the security level of a prison influences the level of liberty that a person has. As I stated earlier, about 18% of the federal prison population serves time in a minimum security camp. That means more than 80% of the federal prison population serves time in higher security prisons. Regardless of where the Bureau of Prisons sends you at the start of your sentence, various factors will influence that security scoring. And a change in security scoring can result in a transfer to either a higher security prison or a lower security prison. So learn how behavior in prison influences the inmate security designation and custody classification. Although nothing is going to change the past, but the passing of time will change the base score. The custody score is a little bit more dynamic. In other words, your behavior in prison can result in lowering or raising the custody score. So understand how the system works, then you can choose to behave in ways that are going to reflect your mastery of the system. Now, as a founder of Prison Professors, I would be remiss if I did not share what I learned from serving time in prisons of every security level. I started my term in 1987. Now, initially, authorities locked me inside a detention center in Miami. That's an FDC. At the time, it was called the Metropolitan Correction Center. But since then, the BOP changed MCC Miami into FCI Miami. When I started, I didn't understand the system at all. I only cared about getting out of prison. That's all I cared about. But later, after a jury convicted me and a judge sentenced me, I started to change my thinking process. And I've explained all of that earlier. I think in episode 1, I give some detail on that. But I really wanted to leave prison successfully. That's really was first and foremost in my mind after I got convicted. So every decision I made inside would put me on the trajectory of success. Now, what types of decisions will you make? After being sentenced, the authorities transferred to the United States Penitentiary in Atlanta. And I had a 45-year sentence. But under the laws that existed at that time, I could earn credit for good behavior. As long as I didn't lose any of those credits for good behavior, I could complete that term in 26 calendar years. And I started to set goals. I just wanted to get out of prison at the soonest possible time. But besides that, I wanted to make sure that when I returned to society, I could come back with my dignity intact and with opportunities to succeed. So I understood that although there was a lot of things I couldn't control, I would have the decision to respond to these things that I didn't have control. How was I going to respond to them? And those decisions, they could either lead me closer to success or they could take me farther away from the possibilities of success. So coincidentally, Program Statement 5100.08 rewards decisions, the types of decisions that I consider to be consistent with success. By avoiding disciplinary infractions in prison, I could put myself on a path to move to lower security levels. It wasn't going to happen overnight. Yet by gradually working through programs in prison, I could begin to influence change. I could assess my environment. Although I couldn't avoid the volatility of prison, I could make choices that would minimize my exposure to problems. I could choose jobs that would be more consistent with my goals. I could maneuver my way into the best possible housing situation. So understanding Program Statement 5100.08 made all of the difference. I knew that I could succeed even in a high security penitentiary. I didn't receive any disciplinary infractions while I was there. And in fact, while I was there, I earned an undergraduate degree and I successfully coordinated my transfer to the medium security institution of my choice. And when I got to the next stop, I just repeated the process. At the soonest possible time, I transferred from medium security to low security. Again, the institution of my choice. And by the time I arrived, I had a master's degree. While in the low security prison, I continued the same pattern. I married the love of my life. And at the soonest possible time, I transferred to a minimum security camp. And while I was in the camp, I built many relationships that influenced my success in prison and beyond. Indeed, I met my co-founders at Prison Professors while I was still locked up inside of minimum security camps. So I urge you, get ready to master the federal prison system. If you or a loved one is facing challenges with the criminal justice system, our team encourages you understand security, custody, classification. You can research the entire manual by reading Program Statement 5100.08. Or if you want a quick assessment of how the Bureau of Prisons will score you, turn to our free calculators at prisonprofessors.com. Again, if it's not free anymore by the time you hear this podcast, just pop a message to the team. I'm not running that, but I know that they'll help you out. We give away more content than we sell. And the more you know about the system, the stronger you are going to become. So restore your confidence. Make better decisions. The better decisions will show that you are the master of the system. Regardless of where you serve your sentence, you can make decisions that are going to lead you to a life of meaning and relevance. Now that said, my partners and I ask you to consider Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We all have the basic needs of safety. So if you can maneuver your way into less volatile environments, then we urge you to do so. And it all begins with understanding security and custody classification systems. You'll know how to seize upon opportunities that can influence those scoring levers. And the sooner you get started, the better off you're going to be. I hope that you find a lot of information in the free content we provide at prisonprofessors.com. So that's it for today. In the next episode, we are going to be discussing how do you prepare before going into the prison system. I encourage you, stick with us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit subscribe on iTunes. Please give us a rating, leave us a review. I hope that you'll find us worthy of a 5-star review, but if not, we'll keep working harder. We're trying to try and earn your trust and earn your loyalty. We encourage you to visit our Facebook page at Prison Professors. Make sure you like our page, comment there, and take a look at us on YouTube. We ask you to subscribe there. We present a lot of videos, and we just try to give away a lot of content that will help people understand that regardless of what challenges you're facing today, you can start making decisions that are going to lead to success. If you want to learn more about how we can help you, very simple. Text the number 44222. That's text 44222 and leave the message Prison Pro. That's text 44222 and leave the message Prison Pro. I am Michael Sanchez with prisonprofessors.com, and thank you for listening.